Next is just an introduction to the 5-step coaching process that we're going to cover more in depth in the next lectures. But this is going to be reoccurring for what you're doing as a coach or even athlete. If you're trying to learn the process more of what's happening with your own physique, is step 1 is you're going to need data, and you need to assess that data to make decisions. So you're going to need some type of tracking system in place that can collect the right type of data. You don't want it to be too much and overwhelming, but you also don't want it to be too little to where you can't pull enough out of it to learn what's happening in someone's physique. The second step of this is going to be corroborating the story. So this might be, hey, you see on someone's check-in, they missed a meal. Why'd they miss a meal? What do we need to gain from the athlete? What questions do we need to ask? We need to find out more of what's happening. 3 is going to be creating an action plan to deliver these action steps and address what we found out from the data and from the story of what we need to do next. Once we put that in place, we need to observe and monitor. Again, that goes back to our tracking system. Then we kind of rinse and repeat this process. We're going to make outcome-based decisions based on the data we collect and what we're seeing occur from monitoring the decisions we're making. So to make this all happen, we need a coaching system that can not miss data needed and allow for that coach-athlete development process. And so an example of this, to not make it just up in the clouds for people, is step 1, you'd get a client check-in, an email. They'd also have a daily tracker that they were doing. So every day they're logging in their weights, their step count, maybe their sleep. Then they're also sending you visuals. So we have 3 things of data that we're getting. And we assess if progress is aligning with the goal, right? Maybe they're in a fat loss phase and they're lacking fat loss for this week. Well, what's going on? And we see in their data that they have 90% diet adherence. We're like, okay. Well, that leads us to step 2, further communication with the client. We need to corroborate the story and see what's going on. Hey, what happened on Monday with your meals? Like, why'd you miss that meal? And they answer, well, I ran out of time to get my meals in. So we're going to create some actions in agreement with the client to act on. So this is also building in some of the autonomy with the client, because we're going to get them to help make some of the decision processes in coaching so that it's very agreeable. So we might ask, hey, is 5 meals more doable, or is faster meals the issue? So then we put the action in place and we teach on why it's important to not be missing your meals and how this action we're making will work well for them. We might do a video feedback to them and give a plan overview to communicate that process. Maybe we also need to have some other metric tracking we're doing if this is a reoccurring problem. So we're not having to do the back and forth with the client. So if meal missed, explain here. So you might need to add that onto your tracking sheet. It's not just say, how adherent were you today? If missed a meal, note why. And maybe that's all you need to add into your tracking system. Then we're on to step 5. The new outcome guides the decision. So 5 meals per day resulted in success. Perfect, easy. Continue the plan. So throughout this process of this coaching system, we're going to build in autonomy by asking client questions and helping them guide the process of the choices we make. We don't need to make assumptions on, oh, they just need some faster meals to get in, or just eat your meals, bro. That's just the way it is. We also build competency by explaining the process of how things work, why missing a meal is not going to be conducive to their goals. And then we're also building relationships with the client, right? By sending video back and forth, really investing in that individual. So that's going to help drive that process we talked about earlier in those 3 areas of client motivation, enjoyment, and long-term success. But we'll work more deeply on the client check-in process in a later lecture.